welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi, my name is Nicole and I'm a part-time reseller on Poshmark. And as I talked about a couple weeks ago, I made the first video that was the brands that aren't selling for me, and I figured I would make another one, and I'm actually pre-filming this before I put that video out, so I'm not really sure what the response is on that video, but I just figured this should be helpful for people out there, especially those that are learning different brands and learning what brands to source. So I figured I'd put another one of these together. Like I said, I had a really long list of brands and I didn't even get through half of it in the first video, so hopefully this is also helpful for you. And if you missed that first video, you can find it on my channel. I can also link it down below. But yeah, let's get right into this version. This is the next part of that video. We may need to make a third one eventually if this one gets too long as well, but let's get it right into the brands and find out a couple more brands that I just don't recommend picking up. They just don't sell really well, and I just don't waste my time on them anymore. Okay, so the first brand that I really don't recommend picking up, and I actually used to swear by it, but I don't anymore, is Athleta. So I talked about it in that first video, Fabletics and some of the other athletic brands that, people swear by, but Athleta for me, it's one of those brands where you would think it's expensive to begin with, but it just, the resale value isn't there, and I end up having pieces sit for a long time, and I've gotten different styles, different sizes, and you name it, it's sat for a long time for me. So it's just not one of those brands I gravitate towards, unless it's one of those brands that you can find, in the Goodwill bins, then I'll just pick it up, but I'm not going to go out of my way to get it, and I'm certainly not going to pay full price for Athleta either. Okay, another brand that actually may be controversial because I know a lot of people love it is actually Levi's, but I've actually found, I don't know if it's the sizes I'm picking up or what, but a lot of the times Levi's just sits for me for a long time. And now occasionally I will pick it up if I get it really cheap in the Goodwill bins or if I get it donated to me, but I'm certainly not going out of my way to pick it up, and especially in those smaller sizes. People swear by Levi's jeans, and I thought that that's what it was, so I bought a bunch of Levi's jeans at once, and I still have a bunch in my closet, but they just don't sell, and I don't know what it is, but I really expected them to sell faster, and they're not. So it's just not one of those brands that I gravitate towards anymore. And the thing I've noticed with Levi's is it's really tricky because there's so many different eras of Levi's, and there's like Levi Strauss, and then there's the main brand, and you really need to know what you're looking for when it comes to Levi's. I think if you get the right styles and the right era of them, you could actually do really well with them. But unless you know what you're doing, it's really hard. At least I find it's really hard to sell Levi's. Okay, so the next brand that I don't pick up that much anymore is actually Gymshark. So I find that a lot of these athletic brands have been in these videos, and I don't know if it's just because they were really overhyped for a while, or if they were really good and they were expensive, so people wanted them secondhand, but now they're just not really much, purchased anymore. But I don't know, I find I have a really hard time selling Gymshark, and I find that they just sit so long, so I don't pick them up anymore. I actually was given a pair recently. I think it was donated to me, but they've been sitting ever since I listed them, which was a couple weeks back. So, and they're not really getting much attention. So I don't go out of my way to pick them up if I see them in the Goodwill, and it's not worth it anymore. I used to pick them up all the time. I used to swear by it, but it just doesn't sell anymore. So I don't pick it up, and I just avoid it when I can. Okay, so the next brand that I really don't go out of my way to source anymore is actually Coach. So Coach was one of those brands that used to be really good, and I used to swear by picking it up. I actually sold a bunch of Coach last year and the year prior, and I actually was able to make a decent amount of money off of it. But now it's gotten to the point where I have like these wristlets that are like practically brand new, and I can't even sell them for like $15-20, and they're like leather, they're nice quality. So I've realized that I just don't want to pick it up anymore. It just doesn't really sell. I had a pair of Coach rain boots that were in near perfect condition that sat for almost 2 years, and I find that it's really hard to sell, and it never was, but recently it's been harder. And so it's just one of those brands that I don't really pick up, I don't have good luck with, and it's really expensive. Unless you get it at like the Goodwill or the Goodwill bins, it's cheaper. But if you get it anywhere else, it's going to be really expensive, and the return is not going to be that great once you sell it. Okay, so another brand that actually may come as a shock, because I actually didn't even know about this brand until I found it and then did my research. But 7 for All Mankind. So they, again, have really good jeans, just like Levi's, And I used to swear by picking them up, and every time I would find them, I'd be really, happy. And actually, I found them by accident once where I didn't really know what the brand was, and I saw it, and then I looked it up, and I saw that their jeans are really expensive. But then, after, trying to sell them a couple times, selling them at a cheaper price, they just weren't selling. I ended up just giving up, and now I have a couple pairs left in my closet, and I'm just trying to get rid of them because they're just not selling. They're not getting any attention or anything like that. So I just don't recommend picking up that brand if you don't need to. And the final brand that I'm going to talk about in today's video is actually Stuart Whitman. So again, this was a brand that I knew was like a good quality brand, but I don't know, every time I would pick it up, and I've picked it up a couple times, they just don't sell. I actually think I have a pair of shoes on the rack behind me that are Stuart Whitman, and they're a good style, but I don't know, I just don't think the brand is what it used to be. And actually a few years ago, I did a Thrift With Me haul on Instagram, back when I was posting on there pretty regularly, and I did a should I pick these up or should I not? And I had a pair of Stuart Whitman shoes that were like in near perfect condition, and 90% of the people said not to pick them up, and 10% did. So I actually took their advice and didn't pick them up, but it's like shocking because you would think that that brand would sell really well because it's an expensive brand, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to sell well just because it's expensive to begin with. So again, these brands are all brands that I don't personally pick up anymore. If they work for you, then definitely keep picking them up. If they don't work for you, then maybe, stop picking them up and pick up new brands. But I know a lot of people may have good luck with these brands, and if you do, by all means, keep picking them up and keep getting them. They just don't work for me, and I don't really go out of my way to get them anymore. And maybe in a couple years, I'll be eating my words, and maybe they'll sell for me again. I don't know, but for right now, in 2024, these are not selling for me, and so I will not be picking them up. And if you missed that first video that I did on the, the first set of brands that I don't source at the Goodwill anymore, you can click right here and you can see that video. And also, if you want to see another video on things that you should be doing, best practices to have good luck on Poshmark, you can click right here. But until next time, I will see you then.